Delay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today we will be starting. We will start with quote of the day and remember Allah often, so you may be successful. This is from Quran. So today we will be starting a crash course of important topics from past papers, from FCPS community medicine papers for from the past few years. And I am Dr. Temia Ayub, and I will be presenting this course under the guidance and instructions of Professor Dr. Saira Afzal, my supervisor and Dean Institute of Public Health. So for the month of February, we will be revising the important topics, and we want to have a focused answer so that we all of us can benefit maximum in the exam. So today we will be focusing on the important past paper questions of health system and primary health care. So the format is that we will be selecting a main topic like primary health care, and then we will go through some of the past paper questions, so all of us understand how many marks distribution is done, and in which years which questions came, and which questions are important, or which topics are important from part 2 perspective, and which topics are important from IMM perspective. So let's start. So the most important question which has come at least 3 to 4 times was, what is primary healthcare? What are components and principles of primary healthcare? So we will just go through them quickly, because all of us already know that, but just let's introduce. So what is primary healthcare? Primary healthcare is essential healthcare that is universally accessible, scientifically sound, socially acceptable, affordable, and provided as close as possible to where people live and work with community participation. So, what is the standard WHO or Alma Ata definition of primary healthcare? Is essential healthcare based on practical, scientifically sound, and socially acceptable method and technology made universally accessible to individuals and families in the community through their full participation and at a cost that the community and country can afford, and which forms an integral part of the country's health system. So, this is the classic definition of primary healthcare. Now, there are 8 classical components of primary health care. These are health education, education about prevailing health problems and methods of prevention and control. For example, in cases of health education about vaccination, immunization, or family planning. Then we have promotion of food supply and proper nutrition, which leads to prevention of malnutrition, especially in mothers and children. Adequate supply of safe water and basic sanitation, which leads to control of waterborne and sanitation related diseases, which includes wash protocol and prevention of waterborne diseases like typhoid, etc. Maternal and child health, including family planning, antenatal care, safe delivery, postnatal care, immunization against major infectious diseases like expanded program of immunization diseases like tuberculosis, polio, measles, etc. Prevention and control of locally endemic diseases. For example, in some part of the world, malaria is more endemic. In our country, particularly in our province, dengue is more endemic. So it depends on context of that country and that region. And for Pakistan, tuberculosis is also important. So prevention and control of those locally important and endemic diseases. Appropriate treatment of common diseases and injuries. First contact care at the community level. For example, what at what point the patient or should be taken to the hospital, at what point they can be taken to the private clinic, to realize and to understand the danger sign, and to give prompt care when needed. Provision of essential drugs, availability of basic life-saving medicines like the essential drug list, which should be available at which level of healthcare. So these are some of the important 8 important components of primary healthcare. Now we come to principles of primary healthcare. These principles guide how primary healthcare should be delivered. So, the number one principle is equitable distribution. Health services should reach everyone, especially rural and underserved populations. It opposes urban centric healthcare, which is very common, and actually it is prevalent in all over the world, that urban centers have more healthcare facilities as compared to rural centers, and urban population comparatively has better health standard in some part of the world, and so equitable distribution opposes this urban centric plan. Community participation, active involvement of individuals, families, and community, people taking responsibility for their own health by themselves. Then, intersectoral coordination. Health is not only the responsibility of the health sector. Collaboration with education, agriculture, water and sanitation, housing, and transport. As we see it practically every day at our institute, also, that health department is involved actively in coordination, and Environmental Protection Agency, coordination with the animals health services, and all these are part of intersectoral coordination. Appropriate technology, scientifically sound, acceptable, affordable, and sustainable technology. For example, ORS instead of IV fluids at community level, hand pumps instead of complex water systems. So, what can be done in that particular scenario with that economic realities, and for those people and for their need. So, this is appropriate technology. So now we come to the second question. It has also come a couple of times. The health system of a country plays vital role in developing preventive health program. Identify six building blocks of a health system. This is actually a very common question, which is related to the WHO six building block, and it has come time and again in different forms. In IMM also, and in part 2 also. So it is again a very important question. So it has six building block. The left side, there are the system building block. It starts with leadership, governance, healthcare financing, health workforce, medical products or technology, information and research, and service delivery. Then all these leads depends upon access, coverage, quality, and their safety. And then the goals and the outcomes are improved health, level and equity, responsiveness, financial risk protection, and improved efficiency. And this figure is very important in answering many questions. So, many questions which are not even directly related to health, these building blocks, but they involve health system. We can answer them by covering all these points, and it comes mostly always right. So, this figure is very important for both IMM and part 2. You just have to learn it. It can come on its own or in indirectly in some other question, and we can explain all of these points one by one, how leadership and governance are important, what is the initiative which can be taken by the government, like for example, what are the initiative which are currently being taken by the Punjab government. So in that context, leadership is important. Then healthcare financing, how it plays an important role, for example, in running day to day activities of a hospital, financing and the how they are getting financed is very important for their smooth programming. Health workforce, if the doctors and the nurses and the paramedical staff or allied health staff are up to the mark, they are trained, they are appropriate in number, they are doing the, we have the right person for the right job, it also leads to very much smooth functioning. Then we have medical products and technologies. Again, appropriate technology at that time. For example, at a BHU, basic health unit, the medical products or technology which are needed is very different from a teaching care, tertiary care hospital. So we cannot provide a very highly sophisticated or advanced machine at a BHU to get its maximum benefit. It depends on the product, it depends on the needs of the people. So medical products and technology are important, another important building block. Then we have information and research. uh, all the data which is coming through our healthcare systems at different level, it should be integrated, and then it should be used to for research purposes, so we can have a feedback mechanism to ensure that the right everything is working right, and all the things are working in harmony with each other to get the maximum benefit. Then we have service delivery, how we are delivering um, service. It can be laboratory services, it can be outdoor patient services. So again, at what place we are delivering is again very important. So all these six blocks can be explained one by one if a question comes. So now we come to the next question, which is provision of essential medicines is one of the building blocks of the health system. In Pakistan, fake medicines crisis revealed the scale of production of counterfeit medications. What are the challenges for provision of essential medicines in Pakistan with respect to access, quality, and regulation? So this part had two question, this question had two parts. So first we are going to explore the challenges which are there in Pakistan. So, key challenges in Pakistan's health system. So, inappropriate use of technology due to lack of needs assessment, non evidence based procurement of drugs, diagnostics, and equipment. Essential service packages does not define quantity or type of inputs, irrational spending, drug quality, pricing, and irrational prescribing issues. Technology assessment, HTA not institutionalized. Health technology assessment is a very important component of drug drug procurement and usage, and it works at different level. It can work at an institutional level, then it can work at a provincial level, and then it can work at a national level. So most of the countries, the advanced and the well developed countries, they have health technology assessments, HTA, either as an institution or either as a separate organization, and those HTA are responsible for regulating the price of particular services or particular medical products in the country. And they also define, they are also important for deciding if they need to import or export different medical products. So a health technology assessment is very much important. It also occurs in Pakistan, but it is not as much prevalent or evident it as it should be. So it is an important point. So what are other major issues in drug sectors? There are drug shortages caused by monopolies and artificial supply restriction. Essential drugs are most affected. Weak enforcement of Drug Act of 1976. Quality, safety, and efficacy. Presence of substandard, smuggled, and counterfeit drug, poor enforcement of GMP, lack of pre and post marketing surveillance, and pharmacovigilance. Then we have counterfeit medicines. 42% of the drugs in the market are estimated to be counterfeit. Weak regulation and porous borders. These are statistics from around internationally. These are not particular to us, a particular country. Needs are drug codes, barcoding, prescription only sales, and public awareness. Then drug pricing problems, partial deregulation since 1993, non-transparent pricing formula, TRIPS and patient ordinance in 2000, which has led to even, unfortunately, longer monopolies. TRIPS was a patent ordinance which came about in early 2000, and the main idea was behind to regulate the different patents, but it has not led to the that much level of desired results as it was expected from that ordinance. So it has resulted in higher drug prices. Solutions are transparent prices, generic prescribing, and strong regulation. For example, if we can take the price of the insulin, in Pakistan, the insulin price is very different. In United States of America, the prices are absurd. It can come even in lakhs of a price of a single vial of insulin. And across the border, right next to the USA, the Canadian prices are much less. So it depends on the regulations, it depends on the policies of the country, it depends on the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies and their hold in the whole policies of the government. So a single bottle vial of insulin can vary across the world with the same manufacturing companies. The big pharma is the same. The big pharmaceutical companies are more or less the same across the world, but a single vial can difference has different prices which the consumer has to pay at the end. Then irrational use and unethical practices, overprescribing, self-medication, and over-the-counter misuse. This is some of the problem, one of the most important problem in context of Pakistan scenario, our scenario in Pakistan. Medicines are being prescribed, particularly antibiotics are being overprescribed because that's the demand of the patient and that's the demand of the system. Then people can easily do self medication. Basic antibiotics, anybody can go to the pharmaceutical pharmacy, get the medicine, and uh, start using them. And this leads to over the counter misuse of many medicines, particularly the antibiotics are the one which we should be worried about the most. Hospitality based pharma marketing, again, we are all aware of this aspect. Lack of pharmacist presence, poor prescription enforcement. So, again, even if you write the prescription, you don't have any method to ensure that the patient is going to take the medicines the doctor has prescribed. They can be taking any medicines. National Essential Drug List guides rational drug use and procurement. Problems: it is large size, poor doctor awareness, needs strengthening, and better implementation. So, National Essential Drug List is a list which every country develops depending upon their usage, their disease context, their consumption concept. So it varies a lot from a country to country. There are a list of essential medicines which have been given by the WHO for that very matter, but every country modifies it according to their own needs. For example, if Pakistan is facing a crisis of diabetes mellitus, some other country in for example in other country in Asia or Africa may not be facing that. So so the amount of anti-diabetic medicines which we should have in our national essential drug list will not be the same case with the other countries. So then it depends on the country and their needs. Traditional medicines are poorly regulated, needs DRA oversight and randomized control trial-based evidence. So these are some of the issues which were have been related to drugs. Then there are vaccine production challenges, heavy dependence on important vaccine, NIH underutilized, not meeting the WHO GMP, high financial burden on the government, and the way forward only is to enable local vaccine production, strengthen private sector plus DRA oversight, um, promote technology transfer and cost effectiveness analysis. So, cost effective analysis is again a very important um, analysis which should be done at institution or hospital level, city or district level, then provincial level, and then national levels. That how much we are spending for a particular technology or a particular medicine and how much it is going to save us or to cost us in total in the future. So it's again a very important analysis. So now we have the question of Kielman's conceptual framework is a scheme for understanding different components of a health system. Briefly explain salient features of this framework. So let's go through this framework. So this is the framework. It has, if you can see, in the center of it is the community participation, which leads to support systems. And then we have the input distribution, service output, service outcome, health problems or needs, service inputs. Again, so it's a circle in which there are inputs, input distribution, output, service outcome, and then again we are back to the health problems or needs. So this is there. Then management and organization are very important for service output. And then at the in the bigger circle we have economic environment, geoclimatic, social, cultural, political, and all these types of environment. So this is the Kielman framework. So basically, the Kielman conceptual framework explains how a health system functions as an interlinked set of components influencing health outcome through input, processes, and context. Again, it's a very basic concept of input, process, output, and outcome. So it is again very much evident from this conceptual framework that how everything is interlinked and is in cyclical form. So this is the diagram which should be explained at every point to get the maximum benefit. So then some of the salient or the key features are health system inputs, which are many, but for some are human resources, financial resources, infrastructure, drugs, equipment, and technology. Then we have health system processes, which are service delivery, management and administration, government and regulation, and then referral systems. Then we have health system outputs, availability of services, accessibility and coverage, quality of care, efficiency. And then health outcomes, improved health status, reduced morbidity and mortality, equity in health. And contextual factors which are affecting everything is socio-economic condition, political environment, cultural belief, demographic factors. These are the big circle, final circle which were surrounding everything. So the feedback mechanism is that outputs and outcome influence future planning and inputs and promotes continuous health system improvement. So this is, and all these this output, outcome, and factors, they can vary from a particular scenario to another, but the main framework remains the same. Now we come to the next question. Regarding the changing context of primary healthcare renewal, what major issues have been identified for future? In changing global and national context, primary healthcare renewal has identified the following major issues: equity in inequity in health, persistent social, economic, and geographic inequities, marginalized and vulnerable populations remain underserved. And then we have epidemiological and demographic transition, rising burden of NCDs, aging population and urbanization, continued burden of communicable diseases. Weak health system, fragmented service delivery, inadequate financing and workforce shortages, and then poor referral and continuity of care. Rising healthcare cost, escalating cost of medicines and technologies, high out-of-pocket expenditure, limited financial protection. Quality and safety of care, variable quality of services, lack of standard treatment guidelines, weak regulation of public and private sectors. And finally, community participation decline, reduced community engagement in planning and delivery, and weak social accountability mechanisms. Health workforce challenges, skill mismatch and maldistribution, need for new competencies for chronic care and prevention, inadequate intersectoral action, poor coordination with sectors addressing social determinants of health, need for people centered care, services not aligned with people's expectations and need, limited emphasis on continuity and comprehensive. So these are some of the challenges. So this is the big figure is showing how health systems have diverted from the primary healthcare core values. So these are the health system, and instead of the core values which are needed, the current trends are hospital centrism, commercialization, and fragmentation. All this has led to these are the primary healthcare reforms are needed to change these current trends into health equity, universal access to people centered care, and healthy communities. So, again, a question is healthcare is the responsibility of the government. What are the challenges faced by the government while managing healthcare? Challenges faced by government in managing healthcare. The government faces multiple systemic financial and managerial challenges. We have financial constraint with limited health budget and competing national priorities. Again, as WHO recommends, a country should spend at least 5% of their GDP on for their health budget. Currently, Pakistan is spending the lowest amount of GDP among all of its neighboring countries and even most of the countries in this part of the Asia. Last year for 2025, Pakistan spent only 0.9% in their GDP, which is way less than countries like India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So, high out of pocket expenditure, rising costs of medicine, technologies, and services, human resource issues, shortages of trained healthcare professional, maldistribution, poor retention, motivation, and accountability. Governance and management problems, weak leadership and stewardship, poor planning, monitoring and evaluation, corruption and lack of transparency. Infrastructure and service delivery gaps, inadequate health facilities, especially in rural areas, poor maintenance of existing infrastructure, inefficient referral system. Inequitable access, disparities based on geography, gender, and socioeconomic status, marginalized population remains underserved. Quality of care issues, lack of standard treatment guideline implementation, weak regulation of public and private sector, poor patient safety and quality assurance mechanism. Then we have drug and technology management, irrational procurement and use of medicines, drug shortages and counterfeit medicines. Again, we have the absence of health technology assessment or at least inefficient working of it. Population growth and epidemiological transition, rapid population growth, dual burden of communicable and non communicable diseases, limited intersectoral coordination. So again, you can see that all these points which were mentioned in the first question, more or less, everything is valid for all the levels and all the different questions coming for health from health system. So this is the last question: what is universal health coverage and what are the different components? Universal health coverage means that all people and communities can use the health services they need of sufficient quality to be affected while ensuring that the user is not exposed to financial hardship. This definition of UHC embodies three related objectives: equity in access to health services, quality of health services should be good enough, and people should be protected against financial risk. So, these are the important three components. Then, what how Pakistan can move forward in relation to universal health coverage: develop a vision, strategy, and roadmap for achieving UHC by 2030. Develop and implement an evidence informed package of essential services at primary, secondary, and tertiary care. Progressively increase government allocation to health to 3% of the GDP, and predominantly use these to cover vulnerable groups. Establish, strengthen, and scale up social health insurance program. UHC reforms should be led by provinces. Federal government should assist. Ensure more efficient use of existing resources by improving productivity, minimizing wastage and abuse, and controlling corruption. Undertake regular assessment, HMIS, or surveys to determine progress based on global UHC monitoring framework. So this is the relation between health system building block attributes and action domains leading to universal health coverage. Health system building blocks, again, which we mentioned in the initial stages slides: governance, health workforce, health financing, essential medicines, technology, and health information systems. Powered by service delivery, individual and population services, which leads to the action domains of universal health coverage, which are sustainability and resilience, quality, efficiency, equity, and accountability. And finally, we have outcome and impact with reduced health risks and improved health, equitable health outcomes, and improved financial protection. And these are the in the bottom we have the action domains of UHC explained, which are quality, efficiency, equity, accountability, sustainability, and resilience. For this is the another interesting relationship between health system and UHC coverage. So this video will be uploaded on YouTube, and we will be doing the whole revision throughout the month of February, and we will try to cover all the essential topics. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Temia. As only 1 minute is left in closing this link,
Yes.
so I would say दैट दिस इज़ अ वेरी गुड ओवरव्यू। लेकिन जो हमारी बात हुई थी वो ये थी कि हमने हर टॉपिक में से इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस जो हैं वो आइडेंटिफाई करने हैं। तो ये टास्क तो आपने बहुत अच्छा कर लिया है। वी हैव
Yeah.
आइडेंटिफाइड द टॉपिक फ्रॉम द हेल्थ सिस्टम दैट हैव कम इन द एग्जामिनेशन,
Yeah.
और उन टॉपिक्स पर अब हमने एक एक करके प्रेजेंट करना है। आज की जो आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन थी, इट इज़ ए गुड प्रेजेंटेशन बट इट इज़ वेरी कंसंट्रेटेड एंड देयर इज़ a lot of cognitive overload. So
Yeah.
I am sure कि जितने भी लोगों ने आज अटेंड की है, they would not be able to retain more than 5% of the total information that has been passed on. एक एक टॉपिक को हमें दोबारा से एक एक को डिस्कस करना है। फॉर एग्जांपल, आपने सबसे पहले हेल्थ सिस्टम्स की बात की, उसमें आपने सबसे पहले कहा व्हाट इज प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर, उसके कंपोनेंट्स की बात की, उसके ऊपर एक पूरा लेक्चर या एक 30 मिनट का सेशन होगा जिसपे फिर उसमें मेरा फीडबैक होगा,
Yes.
क्योंकि एज असेसर आई नो कि उसमें क्या डेफिशिएंसीज होती हैं और
Yes.
क्या चीज़ें हैं जिसकी वजह से इतना सिंपल क्वेश्चन भी स्टूडेंट्स नहीं सही कर सकते और लर्नर्स को डिफिकल्टी होती है टू गेट पासिंग मार्क्स इवन। सेकंड जो इम्पोर्टेंट आपने बात की हेल्थ सिस्टम कंपोनेंट